Hey, welcome back to The Church Guy and the Addict. I'm Don and I'm the church guy.
I'm Danny and I'm the addict. Welcome.
Hey Danny, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's been a little while since we recorded, but we're back again.
Listen, Danny, the last time, or since the last time we recorded, you had a big celebration that I had the privilege of being a part of, and that was 17 years of sobriety, clean and sober for 17 years. Tell me about that.
By the grace of God, it was beautiful. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful night, and because of COVID, we couldn't meet face to face, so we did what we're doing here, and we had a beautiful Zoom meeting with my brother from another mother, Kenny, who spoke
Yeah.
and delivered an awesome message of hope and strength and what this program can do for you. And I'm just blessed that God's doing for me what I can't do for myself. And so
Mm.
beautiful night.
It was what I found interesting, Danny, was that I've been to a number of AA meetings and I've been to a couple of your celebrations, like your birthdays. I think I was there for your 15th birthday when you had it down at the St. Lawrence Park. Was that the 15th? That was 3 years ago, or was that 12?
I don't remember, but
Yeah,
anyway,
okay,
every day is a birthday for me.
right.
That's I
But
look at life.
but anyway, the it was like an AA meeting on Zoom. That was the first time I participated in one of those. But I was interested to see how personal it actually was. Like, I mean, I know there's maybe 30 people on the call. Most of them were probably friends of yours. And of course, Kenny was a good friend of yours. He was the speaker, but I found it interesting that you still follow the same protocol as you do in meetings, even on
Mm,
Zoom.
right.
So it sounds to me like the Zoom has been fairly successful for AA.
Yeah, it has, and we stay by the protocol because there are some people that are new, and they gotta hear the steps or how it works or the traditions of AA, and
Yeah,
they got to understand that whether you have 17 years or 17 days, you're the same. It's not like you have seniority or anything like that, and that's
yeah,
the beautiful gift of AA, that everybody's opinion counts, whether it's your first day or your 100th year of sobriety, whatever. Everybody's equal, and everybody's opinion means something. And
yeah.
and the other part to that is the fellowship is just beautiful. So because of this virus, we can still have fellowship, which is so helpful, especially for someone who is struggling.
Mm.
So yeah, so it was
Okay,
beautiful.
I have to ask you, after 17 years of sobriety, like you have not had a drink in 17 years and you have not used a drug in 17 years. Are you out of the woods, or are you, like, can I classify you as cured?
Never, never, because I'm always this far away from picking up a drink or a drug. I think it's important to note that there's people who have 25 years of sobriety and pick up again, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's a disconnection with their higher power, God, or they stop going to meetings. And things when things in life get well, you pride and ego stands for edging God out. Says, God, don't worry about this. I got this now, and we have the only disease in the world that tells us we're okay. And it's been 25 years, let's say, and I can have a beer, but those of us who know it's you can't, if you're an alcoholic of my nature, you can't have a drink or a drug, because not only would you go back to where you were before, but you would be worse, because
yeah.
in my case, I'd have 17 years of catching up to do.
Wow.
So I would pick up where I left off, but then I would become worse because of the shame, the guilt, and the remorse. And that's why in the program we always say, you never hold someone on a plateau, because they're human and they can fail you. You know,
Hmm.
and then that this
It's
program.
astonishing to hear you say that, because I would think that for the alcoholic who has achieved, as you said, even 25 years. You would think that there would, like, what would it take for that guy to pick up? Like, I mean, he's been to hundreds of meetings. He's seen hundreds of people relapse. Is it, some big issue in his life, some big problem? His wife leaves him, his child dies. Like, what would cause somebody to do that?
Well, once again, we have the only disease in the world that tells us we're okay.
Hmm.
This disease tells us that, oh, you can have a drink now. You've got 25 years or whatever many years you have, and then a lot of that too is it's the embarrassment for the person to come back to the program and start anew,
So once they walked
to,
away, it's harder to come back.
oh, 100 times more because they've had so many different people looking up to them and
Hmm.
treating them, if you will, as their God, saying, if Larry can do it, then I can do it too, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then poor Larry, and a lot of it is a disconnection with the fellowship. The time and time again, I hear they stopped going to meetings. They stopped going to me. Life got too busy, or he got a promotion, or he got this or that, or he got all those things materially and that he wanted. He's got the big
Yeah.
cottage and the big job and but that lasts for so long because he'll lose that all away, unfortunately.
So Danny,
It's just,
after 25 years, you still have to go to meetings.
I'd suggest so. The guy who ran the facility I was in October, he'll be celebrating 58 years, and he's at meetings all the time.
Wow.
And I know many giants like himself, and this is the only chemo for us, if you will.
Just going to the
Is
meetings. Hmm.
yeah, and helping out the newcomer because when life starts getting good, you forget how bad it was,
Hmm.
and when you're helping out someone else, you realize and you remember because we got this thing in our head that makes us forget really quickly, you know. So, we forget how bad it really was. You know, it wasn't too long ago I was living on the streets. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so got blessed to have a house and what have you to live in today. And if I don't stay grateful about that, which I do, and I try to always remain grateful, just having food in my fridge, a
Hmm.
car to hop into to go to work, or
Hmm.
visit a friend, or go to a meeting, or
And
or having a phone.
I think at one time you told me that you felt that people were disconnecting from their spirituality, or that would be one thing that would cause. But you might have even said it earlier in this video that if they lose contact with their with God, that could cause them to fall. I remember you telling me a story about when you were racing that I think I don't know if you remember that story. Was a really messy track. You
Yeah,
remember the story I'm
yeah,
talking about?
I do, and I remember there was about 22 of us that night, and I remember I heard a voice
We should
almost clear
probably
as
tell
be like,
people we should probably let people know you used to be a race car driver.
yeah, I used to race dirt track, but
Yeah.
anyway, so I was on the pole and I thought, the track was so sloppy and what have you, as Don alluded to earlier. And I remember just having this feeling in my heart, almost like I heard it on the radio saying, "Hey, Dan, go to the back because it's going to be a lot of wrecks because the track is not up to par right now." And I remember thinking, don't worry, God, I got this. We went a couple of laps, and then I was like the third or fourth lap, and I just slammed into the wall because there was no traction. And I remember, and out of like 22 guys, I think 7 finished. That's how bad it was that day. And I remember thinking, if I only listened, and I
Mhm.
just like I remember saying, "Don't worry, God, I got this. I'm on pole. I'll just stay out in front of everybody's, and all the trouble will be behind me. Everything's gonna be okay." And that's what I mean about this connection with God. It's like when I start thinking I know better than God, that's
Mm,
when I'm in trouble. And
mm,
so that's why, we all have that little inner voice in us, and I believe it's God led, saying to us, don't you, maybe you shouldn't go there tonight, or wherever it
mm,
is you're supposed to go to, and you choose to ignore it, and then you wonder why something bad happened to you, and you had the precursor saying to you, don't go tonight, don't go
mm.
tonight. And then of course you just,
Yeah.
don't worry, God, I got this, I'm going to go. And then you realize that you should have listened. You know,
Do you think sometimes it's not the terrible things that happen in your life, but good things happen in your life that would cause, like you sort of get complacent and think,
more,
now I'm bulletproof?
more, exactly. Yeah, I think I have to really watch myself more when things are going good,
Mm,
rather than things are going bad.
really?
Because when things are going good, you just naturally, I got this, and life is so good, and you forget where you came from. Or
Mm,
whether it be the promotion, the new wife, the new cars, the new all this other stuff, and you think that maybe you've become God or what have you.
mm,
And so that's why I have to really be careful when things are going well, because see, when things are going bad in my life, I have these precautionary things that I do or what have you, or even a time in my life when I was looking for employment, and we were talking, you and I would share with you my honest feeling, and I that I really need employment and blah blah blah, and so I have these devices and checks. I go to meetings, and see, when you're healthy in recovery, and when things are going wrong in your life, you share those with friends, you see.
right.
But when you're not healthy in recovery, and you won't tell someone that maybe you're struggling because you might be thirsty, or you're having marital issues, or employment issues, or what have you. And I found that when you grow in recovery is when you can share, because you put your pride and ego aside. Because once
Mm,
again, as God is ego, and you put your pride and ego
mm,
aside, and you share with those that love you, and you love them, and you respect their opinions and what have you. And
yeah.
because a problem shared is a problem halved, right?
Mm. Carbon
That's
half. That's interesting. Danny, during your celebration for your 17th year there, the speaker Kenny, I know he's a good friend of yours, and he's in recovery as well. But he said something that I think relates to this. He said, "Ask for help." So he was telling his own personal story. He was the speaker at your celebration, but that struck me as very good information. Ask for help. I think you guys talk about that in recovery, and we don't talk about that a lot in just doing life. So, as
mm,
sort of the church guy's perspective on this is, that's probably helpful information for every single one of us when we're going
mm,
through situations. I might not, you know, go to alcohol or drugs, but I might go to other things, or I might fall away from my relationship with God. But asking for help is a hard thing to do for any of us.
mm,
But I thought that was pretty good when Kenny said that. He also said, I read the big book and I read the good book. And
mm,
so you said this often too. So I didn't have to hear it from Kenny, but he said, reads the big book and the good book. So it's a combination. It's not all the big book or all the good book. It's a combination of both. So it's mentoring, working with mentors to keep you clean and sober, but also keep you sort of on the spiritual track. I mean, that sounds to me like what you're saying with even having too much confidence
mm.
after being clean and sober for 17 years. You still have to remember the spiritual side of the program. You have to remember the meetings. You have to remember to ask for help. And asking for help is basically humbling yourself,
And you have
admitting
to
to
help,
somebody that, hey, this is, something's not going right.
and you have to help others. And if you don't help others, it's you're not going to keep what you have. You have to help others, because it takes you out of self. Because
Yeah.
most of us who are in the fellowship are very self-centered, and that's why it's important that we help others. And it's a lot of, to me, my only hope that night when we celebrated 17 years is that there was somebody new there, and that they
Mm,
had a feeling that maybe, just maybe, if that guy Kenny can do it, maybe I could do it. Or if that guy Danny could do it, maybe I could do it too. We just that little glimmer of hope. And that's all basically that we do when we're at meetings is we give someone that little spark of hope. It's like, if you look at it this way, it's like if if we were in a dark room and I held a candle and then I lit your candle and then your candle lit your wife's candle and mine lit someone else's candle and Bernadette's candle and whoever's candle, eventually that room's going to be lit up,
mm,
right? And
yeah.
that's kind of the way the program works, and it's a spiritual program. So it's guiding you towards what Kenny was talking about, the good book and the big
Mm,
book, right? It,
mm,
it guides you to your relationship with the God of your understanding. And so it's a win-win for everybody.
yeah. I mean, it's very powerful to, to talk to somebody who's had 17 years of sobriety. That's success, I would say, in the program. But then to
Mm,
hear you still humbly say, I could, still fumble and fall, um, to me is, I think that it probably in life in general, we should always, or we should all sort of look at that as um, a role model for our own lives. Say never to
mm,
get too caught up in ourselves, never to get overconfident in our spirituality. Say, oh, I've read I read the Bible 5 times. I think I know everything there is to know. I'm pretty well read. I'm pretty, knowledgeable in spiritual things, because that's just when the devil will take the legs out from under you.
mm.
And same thing you're talking about in the program, as you start getting too puffed up, you start thinking, I don't need the program anymore. I don't need to help anybody else. I've forgotten where I've come from. That's when you're in trouble.
Exactly, exactly. And I got to remember that, somebody was there to shake my hand when I walked into the
Mm,
fellowship and I needed help. So if everybody, quote unquote, got helped and left,
right.
who would have been there to shake my hand when I walked through those doors?
Mm,
And and I got to add, Don, in my group, I'm a junior.
yeah,
17 years might sound impressive to some, but in my group, I'm a junior. And I like that because
right.
it keeps me green and it keeps me always wanting to learn. And I spoke with a wise man one time and he said, Danny, if you could learn one thing every day, one thing, and
Mm,
you'll be a wise man by the end of your life. And that's
mm,
the way I am. Because when I came into the program, I thought I knew everything, Don. I knew
mm,
everything, and humbling yourself, as you said earlier, I think it's good for everybody to be humble, because we never know what someone's going through today.
yeah.
We never know what's really deep down in their heart going through today. And I find that when I'm Danny, the real me, that people
Mm,
have no problem expressing the real them to me.
right.
So we live our lives transparent. It's real. It's not phony. It's not,
Yeah.
hey Don, how you doing? And meanwhile, your wife left you. The kids don't want to talk to you. Your grandchildren don't want to talk to you. And how are you doing? Oh, I'm okay. Yeah, everything's going good. But then you go home and you're living in that dark world, if you will, and you say, no, really, my life is not going very well. Why couldn't I share that? Because it's your pride and ego that's
Mm.
stopping you from sharing how you truly feel,
Well, every
whether
people have this idea that everybody else's life is doing fantastic.
well, sure,
And
sure.
meanwhile, if we really knew what other people were going through, we'd be more willing probably to share our own lives. Another thing is about getting back to the AA program, is I find it fascinating that, in a meeting where a guy is celebrating 17 years, somebody else might be getting a chip for 60 days
Hmm.
or 30 days.
Yes.
And it's, to me, that is the beauty of doing life together. Is here's a guy who's celebrating 17 years, but he's in the company of a guy who maybe hasn't had a drink in 30 days. He's starting out on the journey, but hand in hand, they can work together to get everybody healthy.
And the truth of that is, Don, is the guy who's celebrating the 30 days or 60 days or whatever,
Hmm.
they're more important than myself,
Wow.
because it's telling them that, man, I got 30 days. That's a miracle. I haven't had 30 days in years. And and that's what the meeting's really about. It's not the guy who's celebrating the 17 years. I'm just the excuse. But for the guy who's picking up his chip, it's a beautiful, beautiful. That's what the meeting's about,
Hmm.
and like I said, I've been around for a few 24 hours, and and that same night, my friend John celebrated 6 years, and I remember John when
Hmm.
he came to his first meeting, and I remember him when he said, I'm sure he won't mind me using his name, so we don't have to worry about that. But anyway, I remember he said to me, is there an AA meeting in here? And I had this clipboard, and I was putting people down to speak or whatever. And I said, yeah, man, hang around. They have cake and everything too. And he thought, who is this wise guy? And sure enough, we did have cake, and it was a good
Yeah.
time. So it always reminds me of that story. And we chuckle about it today, but he thought, I was a real piece of work, because he said it looked like a bingo thing, a bunch of people outside smoking, a guy with a clipboard, and
In a church basement. Yeah.
and he wasn't feeling very well that day either, may I
Hmm.
add, because it was his first ever meeting, and and it was in his cups the night before, so. Anyway, and I'm happy to say he's doing really well today. And that same night, he celebrated 6 years. So it was just
Wow.
phenomenal for AA and those
Yeah.
of us who are in recovery to say that, this program works, but you got to do work. You got to,
Yeah.
you got to do the things that you do to make life a happy place to live in. Life,
Well,
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, we're all out of time, but I just wanted to conclude by saying how proud I am of you, Danny, and just to congratulate you.
No,
As my
thank
friend, I just feel very proud to know you. And so thank you for all that you do in the community of AA and in our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. But once again, Don, if I don't surround myself with good people like yourself and others, I won't be where I'm at today, and that's what I got to stress to people, who are maybe addicted watching this today,
Mm.
you are the people you hang with, so if you're
Mm.
hanging around with good people, honest people, people that you can honestly share stuff with, you know, that might be hurting in your life, because they're the ones who are going to dust you off and carry you through,
Hmm.
and had a lot of misfortunes happen in 17 years. And like I said, when I stayed close to the fellowship, when I stayed close to good people, you can't help it. Everything comes together like a puzzle, and it works out.
Yeah. Okay, Danny. Well, God bless you.
God bless you too.